welcome to the FanHammer Podcast. I am your host, Uncle Sam, and here is my co-host, Shadow.
I live! Mostly.
He's alive.
Mostly.
We also have a guest this time.
Who?
Hello.
It's Glueboy.
Hello, that's me. I am Glueboy.
Question, do you sniff glue?
Mr. Boy, do you eat glue?
No, do you sniff glue?
I get that a lot, and I don't...
Hey. Hey.
Yeah?
Listen, I get called a furry all the time. It's a baseless accusation, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's because of the fact that I'm a shark, so don't feel bad.
You see, this is why I picked my avatar as a Night Lord gremlin. So
Everyone's going to assume you of being a sadist now.
I'm fine with that.
That's fair. Listen, I'll just claim that it's because of Warhammer is a hobby that you build miniatures, and it's plastic glue, you know? It's because I love building miniatures so much. That's the reason.
And totally not sniffing glue, right?
I definitely don't do that.
Don't sniff glue. There is a Ramones song about it, though.
You should drink it, though.
What?
Don't worry about it.
Alright, so today we're going to have a very interesting topic. One I've actually wanted to cover for a very long time, despite knowing literally nothing about it.
What are we covering?
For the most part.
Always be like that, huh?
Yeah.
Look,
I think this is cool. I know nothing.
We want to talk about things, but I know nothing. My brain is zilch. There's nothing happening in there. There are no brain cells. There's only killing.
Oh, no.
So
what are we discussing today?
Well, I was invited here to teach both of you about the beautiful, beautiful world of darkness. Or, very specifically, because to keep this within a reasonable time frame, you gotta pick one. And my specialty is Vampire the Masquerade. Which, important question. How familiar are both of you to Vampire the Masquerade?
What's a vampire?
Great question.
I've watched Hunter the Parenting and
good show.
The Burger Creek videos, and
Great
that's
videos.
about it.
I ate the cereal that's kind of like the vampire on the cover. And
Count Chocula?
So, okay. Perfect. A basic overview on one hand, and definite New World Order propaganda on the other. Perfect. That's an actual, like, in-lore joke, by the way. That's not me just making a bit. That would definitely be, like, the cover-up for an actual in-lore organization. So, yeah. Vampire the Masquerade in the World of Darkness is fantastic. And most people, I feel like, are at least familiar in general with, like, Vampire the Masquerade. At the very least, because of a dang old video game known as Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
No.
Which is a great game. A fantastic game that I'd recommend everyone play, even though the core gameplay of it sucks a lot.
I hear it's very bad. It's very
Go
bad.
play this game, it's bad.
Listen, I've played through the actual, like, game of it 3 times at this point. I had a great time with it. Like, fantastic time. Real quick, I am curious, how many Steam hours do I have?
So what you're saying is that you're a connoisseur.
Oh. I am a connoisseur. I forgot the fact that to have it be functional, you have to download mods, so my Steam hours don't reflect at all. Because it's not functional on your PC at all.
Oh.
Another one.
PC Gaming Wiki, help me.
It's that kind of old PC game.
I love those.
I love those kinds of games.
That
Try
game,
playing Jedi Knight 2 on, like, Windows. It's terrible.
Try
You can't.
playing Fallout New Vegas.
That's modern and optimized, sir.
No, it's not.
Oh, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
You can tell if someone's having a great time. I saw my favorite version of this. It's like someone trying to start up a lawnmower engine is when you see in your bottom right corner of Steam somebody starting up and then closing Fallout New Vegas like 8 times in a row.
me trying to play Battlefield 1 last week because it wouldn't start, and I just gave up and uninstalled it.
Look,
A lot of old LucasArts games.
all you gotta do to fix Fallout New Vegas is install one anti-crash fix, and then it's A-okay.
Yeah, it's a struggle. Even then, sometimes it'll just die for no reason.
Well, yeah,
Bloodlines is a great game. It's probably one of the best like stories I've played in a video game ever, and the thing that holds it back from like some of the best characters I've ever encountered, some amazing like narrative choices you make throughout these like quests, a story that also has what I would consider one of the best like horror segments in a game. There's a hotel level you have to go through that's haunted, and that haunted hotel genuinely spooky. Like oh boy, I was properly rattled
spooky
the whole
you
time.
say.
Very spooky.
Scary you say.
This game is like 20 years
I think that's
old.
also referenced in Hunter the Parenting, where
It is.
Dee goes, I once went to a hotel in LA. A ghost threw a phone at me.
Yes, that ghost constantly throws phones at your head.
Poltergeist!
They are a jackass. It is so rude. But yeah, it is great. However, the gameplay of it is so bad. Like, the combat is just like wildly swinging and hoping it connects. The gunplay is like non-existent. You are spamming a vampire power to like bump a number up to hope it counts. And that's it. That's really all it is. And there's the fact that then you play through it, and oh boy, there's some segments in there that suck. The sewers and the entire endgame is a giant chore. It's so annoying, but it's great.
So terrible, but good. So
I would recommend everyone play it.
So the game is
question.
Yesent in spirit.
Yeah.
Is this made by an Eastern European developer?
I don't know.
Slav
Does this technically count as Slobjank?
It's made by the people who made Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic, which is another game that I've heard is incredibly weird, has a great story, but is also very janky. So yeah, it might be. So yeah, that is like the general level with Vampire. It's a game that is fantastic, held together with a fantastic story. And I'll say like the actual like tabletop game itself is a lot better, because one of the aspects I really, really enjoy about it, and I'm a firm believer of this, I think that if you are a fan of Warhammer 40k, I think you will be a fan of Vampire the Masquerade, because just the elements people enjoy about Warhammer are here. This is a big, grimdark, gothic horror setting, all in our real world, so just getting into it's pretty simple. Just, you know what your real world is. It's pretty simple. And you tell these stories of all these vampires, all in modern knights, as it's referred to, trying to ensure that your mind and your body stays intact, ensuring that like your humanity stays intact, because it's all these like personal stories of becoming a monster but trying to not lose yourself to said monster. It's this terrifying personal story of you have this beast inside of you that's constantly telling you to keep drinking blood, and you take a bite out of somebody, you don't have to kill them, but your beast inside is saying, well, what if you just drank them dry? What if you drank this human Capri Sun and just killed them? You'd lose a part of your soul, but like, wouldn't it be great to satiate your hunger finally and lose yourself? This is like a core mechanic in like the current edition of Vampire.
I'm sorry.
That's the battle you make constantly.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Really cool.
I'm also really sorry, because the entire time you're saying that, like the beast within, all I can think of is there are two wolves inside you.
Oh no, that's a werewolf, and there are 5.
Oh.
And technically, yeah, no, don't worry.
You.
Yeah, trust me, I'll get into the werewolves.
Inside of me are 5 werewolves. All of them have corn dogs.
All of them.
Sam, you are
but-
not escaping the furry. The furry.
Oh God,
Inquisition.
no.
If it helps, technically they're not wolves. So,
Oh,
uh,
what
but
are they?
I'll get
We'll
into that
get
a
there.
little later.
We'll
Don't
get
worry. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'm getting to that real soon. And that's the part I like about Vampire. It's a very like personal horror as it's like turned into recently. It's very, very good. But on the other hand, the fun of Vampire the Masquerade is once you actually break away just a little bit from the whole like central horror aspect, because once you actually understand the lore, it becomes a really goofy setting, because this is the part, both of these, which is why I believe that 40k fans would really like Vampire the Masquerade and World of Darkness, because they're both very similar in this aspect. Like, 40k is so fun because on one hand, you can tell some really, really gripping stories, really cool, grimdark tales of personal sadness and like just depressing moments of war
Skinning babies.
and loss. Exactly. But on the other hand, you have some really wild things, because this is a world of darkness. Vampires aren't the only thing that bump in the night, like I've been kind of hinting at. We have werewolves, but these aren't like werewolves like wolves. These are actually nature spirits created by Gaia. This is all to wage like a spiritual war against the spiritual incarnation of pollution. But don't worry, they've lost. We also have mages. These mages woke up to the fact that reality itself is fake. The literal world that we live in is all but a tapestry that can be altered by just the sheer force of mass belief. And
So orc logic.
kinda, actually.
Orc logic that work.
Like that whole orc logic thing in 40k, like the aspect it works in the community is kind of like a meme. It doesn't fully work that way, but picture like the meme community's idea of the WA, but that is legitimately how it works. It's consensus.
I want to run a mage campaign where a cult is trying to get people to worship the giant spaghetti monster. You're trying to prevent that from breaking reality.
Shut up.
I will be super honest. In Mage the Ascension, there probably is a giant spaghetti monster somewhere in the higher Umbra.
Oh.
Like, so what you just pitched is very plausible.
Hell yeah, this sounds great.
The only difference is that there's probably a subsect of people who have done it unintentionally.
Oh.
Like,
Okey-dokey.
that's the fun of it. Like, people have done it unintentionally, and then there's a small number who are doing this intentionally to create it into being. And then you, as some mages, get to fight said spaghetti monster.
That's awesome.
Exactly. And so all these mages are, like, fighting this war of consensus to try to shape reality itself. These two factions waging war. And the mages you mainly, like, play as are fighting against the literal Illuminati for the crime of creating the iPhone. It's great.
What?
Wait, what?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Is that the technocracy?
Yeah, the technocracy.
Oh
'Cause
my God.
Technology is magic.
Wait.
I can't believe Steve Jobs got assassinated by a maid.
The Steve Jobs was probably a ascended human. Like, he was a I don't believe he was probably a technocrat. Steve Jobs was probably, like, a person of interest with the technocracy.
Are you telling me that Steve Jobs died?
So, my conclusion that I'm
I think
drawing from
probably.
this is that John Carmack, who made Doom and is like technology wizard man, is also probably a wizard. Unintentionally.
He's either a wizard, or, like, the other thing is the technocracy will sometimes just give out a bit of higher tech stuff, like magic, to people they believe, like, are important and cool, to have it be introduced to reality. So here's how it works, to give a lowdown of the technocracy. So reality is dangerous and scary. That way back in the day, we had dragons and scary monsters, people throwing magic all around. It was awful.
Ew.
The technocracy saw this and was like, this sucks, actually. This is awful, because you go outside, a dragon picks you up and eats you. that's pretty bad. Because it all works because everyone's like, I guess magic is real, shrugs, and then keeps going about their day. The technocracy hated this, so they decided to build a reality based on logic and reason and founded this order, this technocratic order. So they started to use their magic and created like technology magic.
Oh my god.
Techno mages, as they're called. And so they have literally created all of this tech and started to slowly inundate our reality, and they've won. Like the war of consensus. The fact that we are a society based off of like a lot of scientific progress and highly technological development is proof of this. And all of the technology you have around you, based on all of this lore, that's all magic. Like, legitimately, the fact that you have a cell phone, can you tell me the difference between your cell phone and a crystal ball?
Oh my word. The image of a bunch of, like, mages and sorcerers.
Ponder
like,
iPhone.
Magic. Cringe. Technology.
Ponder iPhone. All these wizards looking at iPhone when they could be looking at book. Except it's like a crystal ball in a creepy shop.
Do not bother me. I am looking at my iPhone.
Like, that's the whole concept with the technocracy, is they believe in the consensus of logic and reason, and the way that they can enforce this, they want the entire world to operate this way. So to do this, they need to eliminate what they call reality deviants, which are anything supernatural. And, like, that means the other mages need to die. However, this doesn't mean they're going to go around to the other settings, like werewolf and like vampire and stuff, and kill them. Because, fun fact, a lot of the other settings kind of police themselves. Like, the Technocratic Union really likes vampires, because vampires are really good at enforcing the Masquerade, as, like, Vampire the Masquerade, which is the system in place that vampires use to make everyone believe vampires don't exist. Therefore, vampires keep up the consensus that vampires are fairy tales.
Literally 1984.
Actually, there is a subsect of the technocracy called the New World Order, that their entire job is being the New World Order and doing propaganda and controlling your mind.
So, the New World Order
reference?
is real, but it's just a bureaucratic department in the department of techno-magic garbage that also means that two-factor authentication for my account security is actually just a protection spell. Why?
Oh, yeah. You're straight up doing hermetic magic, like,
Google,
every
help.
time you sign into your login.
Walala.
It's very goofy when you dig down into it. And, like, I'll also say it's important because I think it's a good preface. When you describe a lot of technocracy stuff, I think it sounds really good on paper. Like, oh yeah, these are all really some net benefits, but the method they do this in is in, like, population control, like mind controlling ways. They've also responsible for, like, funding the Nazis. And, like, yeah, no, they do this through, like, we can create this consensus by literally controlling the world and having no more free will, actually. That's how they work, and it's not a good thing. So it's fun. Mage the Ascension lore is pretty good. They're very cool. I think you can toss mages in the technocracy into, like, your campaign, your chronicle as it's called, and have it turn out pretty fun.
It'd be really funny to have a campaign where the actual real big bad guy is some minor character that you encounter once earlier in the campaign, and he's not even a major person in the technocracy. He's just a random grunt, like an intern, who doesn't even know he's a part of the technocracy, just handing orders, handed down. The buck finally stopped with him, and you don't even really know he's a bad guy, because he doesn't really know he's a bad guy either, and you're both just kind of like, huh.
You know, you say that up until your players kill the guy.
Absolutely, that's how that ended. It'd be very funny.
Yeah, I had a kind of concept of that where I was writing loosely an idea for a chronicle set in Seattle, the city I'm kind of hailed from, just Pacific Northwest, and it's the closest big city. And one of the antagonists that they might have to deal with is a syndicate technocrat from, Mage of the Ascension. And the syndicate is the economic mages.
Shadow Wizard Money
the
Gang?
money guys. They literally do economic magic.
Shadow Wizard Money
Yes.
Gang?
Yes, literally. They have a magic circle that is, you can divert matter through, like, economy. You can divert economy by, like, you take matter and put it somewhere else, as in you're investing in a person. It's pretty fun. It's really cool and really interesting, but the concept for the character was, like, he did telecommunications and, like, he ran a fucking ISP in Seattle and working with the vampires, and his entire larger goal was like, oh yeah, I'm just helping you vampires, I guess, ha ha ha. But in reality, he was keeping consensus in Seattle by, like, working with the party, since the party's entire thing was keeping out a lot of other spooky supernatural entities out of Seattle. Upholding the Masquerade was the chronicle concept.
So the villain was Comcast?
Yeah.
Okay. What the hell?
That was one of the main villains. The other one was going to be a mummy.
Oh. That's pretty simple in comparison.
Mummy.
But...
Oh.
Evil Comcast be like, I'm using magic to invest money.
Let me invest real quick, and then you get deleted. It's pretty fun.
Wait. In lore, that would mean that for the money stuff, cryptocurrency is literally like the New World Order, where it's an obvious scam and it's just a distraction, but you're still playing into the same thing. That's hilarious.
Yeah. NFTs are probably a syndicate, like, magic spell somewhere.
That's hilarious. I love that.
They put a spell on you to buy fucking images.
Logan Paul,
internet.
agent of the syndicate.
There's some other very fun stuff you'll find around here. Like, wraiths are a great one. They're undead spirits that roam the underworld, which the underworld, the Umbra, is actually less of, like, don't picture hell. It's more like the memory of the surface world, as, like, buildings, when they're destroyed, they go down, and, like, the memory of the building that is then grown up in the underworld. So, like, as you're traveling the underworld as a wraith, you're actually, like, in this city built up of disparate buildings that have all been destroyed and slowly fading, as, like, the memory of these places are slowly fading from the material world. And
that means there's at least one blockbuster down there.
Oh, there's a lot of blockbusters down there. 100%.
Hell yeah.
Yes, it's
Ghost
pretty cool.
buildings.
And as a wraith, you are battling against the call to embrace oblivion itself. And the game is called Wraith the Oblivion, this literal call of the void. And you're in the afterlife. So there's nothing after the afterlife. There's no afterlife 2. And this oblivion is like a physical thing too. There's a maelstrom deep inside of the underworld that's, like, calling for you to go jump into it. It's also worse because the maelstrom got bigger recently because some funny characters decided to blow up the memory nukes of Fat Man and Little Boy. But there's also
Huh?
Yeah. In 1999, some people tried to blow up the memory of the first vampiric city, and they did this by finding the memories of Fat Man and Little Boy in the underworld, and they set them up and blew it up.
Wait, so that's what Shalat did in 1999.
Wait, nukes have...
Yeah, because
nukes have ghosts?
Yeah, because, it's
Nukes
all the
get
buildings in the
ghosts?
Umbra, they have the spiritual remnants, like the memories of it.
I don't think you know how that. Dude, do you know how many nukes were made in the Cold War?
Oh, probably a
It's
lot.
gonna be
Nukes
like Call
are
of
in the
Duty 4,
underworld.
but with ghosts. We need to find the ghost bombs.
My favorite thing, actually, when I'm describing this, I'm very loosely describing what's known as the Week of Nightmares in 1999. It's a great little hilarious thing that's like everyone is here kind of moment in the World of Darkness timeline. I have a video on this, by the way. It's a hectic time period. I didn't go into this fully in my video because it's so just insane and I bungled it in the moment. but two separate factions were setting up soul nukes in the area. But a funny little wraith was setting up the Fat Man Little Boy nukes, and meanwhile a technocrat was setting up other soul nukes next to it, like in the same vicinity, without knowing each other was doing this. And so when the ghost set off like Fat Man Little Boy, the mage was like, oh man, I can't wait to set off these nukes. And then the other nuke was set off.
That's great.
And like the numbers were too high, basically. Like they didn't know, therefore the maelstrom is now way bigger because they oh boy, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I can see that. Also, you're saying this is like happening in the 1990s?
1999.
So what you're saying is that the glorious Soviet Union still exists in the underworld.
Probably. Like there's a lot of Soviets down there. Definitely. Like, I mean, there's not like full nations in like the memories of that, but like if you die, you just pop down in there and are like recruited into these undead legions. It's like
Ghost Stalin.
He might be down there.
I didn't say Joseph. I said Ghost Stalin.
I have a loose understanding of Wraith. It's a weird setting in a game that I don't plan on touching because like the game itself is weird.
That sounds amazing. Out of everything that I've seen, Mage and Wraith seem to be the most like, what the hell is this? I need more.
It's interesting. There's also mummies, which are like I mentioned, mummies aren't even like fully undead. There's like a spell of mummification, a spell of like rebirth that got made, which you die and then are reborn and are basically, instead of being undead, you're actually just given so much life energy and then fused with an ancient soul of like an ancient spirit. And you're also just overpowered. Like you can just like control the weather itself. Like as the disciplines go, you can kind of go from like, oh yeah, I can sense energy, I can like control these like minor little things. Oh look, I can make like a little rain cloud in my hand to watch as I meditate and I create an apocalyptic storm in Manhattan. It goes from like that really quick.
So some dude made a tsunami for fun and then bad things happened.
It goes from 0 to 100 real quick. We have fae, demons, or if you want to be really base, you can just be a regular human and decide to kill any of those monsters I talked about as a hunter.
Which is Hunter the Reckoning, right?
Yes, Hunter the Reckoning.
Bro, I can't wait to play Bloodborne in
basically
Spirit London.
From what I understand about Hunter, it's essentially Scooby-Doo with guns.
Hunter the Reckoning in like its actual gameplay is less about like gripping combat. It's more like you spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's happening, and then you spend a while trying to set a trap, and then when the combat starts, it's oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. And then you're like, okay, we're alive. Like that's the moments. Like Hunter the Parenting, like the actual like show for it, does a great job in the moment of hitting like things are lethal, things are scary, combat does not go as planned. It's not a action-packed game. That's not the point of it.
Which, Shadow, if you haven't watched Hunter the Parenting, if you like TTS, it's literally the main cast of TTS.
I know what it is.
I honestly, as it's going on, I think I'm enjoying it a little more than TTS because I think it's like the best episodes of TTS continued because they've just clearly gotten better as it's gone on, and I think they feel like they can do more with it.
Yeah.
Hunter the Parenting, I feel like TTS is a fun comedy. Hunter the Parenting is a good drama comedy. It's a good actual story / series.
It's also fun.
Genuinely engaging.
They with their audio logs that they've been doing recently. I like now that I can catch a lot of the fun little references. They did one recently with Boy and his really fun fan fiction of him being a cool vampire slayer. There's a moment where Big D gets really excited that Gilgamesh shows up. I want you to know that Gilgamesh is a canon character in VTM as like a third or fourth generation vampire. which is incredibly terrifying and incredibly powerful character whose stat blocks, if you're like a 4th generation vampire, is essentially the word yes written on a piece of paper.
It's like, imagine a Primarch, but then to the power of 5.
Oh, like, the way I put it, there's when it comes to 1999, like the Week of Nightmares, what the catalyst moment in the Week of Nightmares is an antediluvian, which translates to like before the flood, the biblical flood. So there are 13 main ones, but 14 as like playable vampire clans, which are your classes. One of them for Clan Ravnos, the antediluvian for that, Ravana, Ravnos, Zapsathura, he goes by many names. He awoke in India in 1999, and he's a 3rd generation vampire. The lower down in your actual bloodline and like your generation level is the stronger you are. It's more potent you are because the closer you are to the primogenitor vampire. The first vampire being Cain from the Bible. And
the Bible.
From the Bible. And
The Bible.
I like to God, I do just quote often I'm the devil from the Bible, because it comes up way too often in this setting that I have found. It's too versatile in this setting.
The devil is also a character, I'm pretty sure, right?
Oh yeah, there's Demon the Fallen.
Oh right, yeah.
There's a book written by Lucifer, apparently.
Isn't that the Book of Nod?
No. There's a source book written by Lucifer. It's like a big Latin name.
Oh.
I forget the exact name of it. But yeah, the closer you are to Cain, the stronger you are. And the typical vampires you're playing in like an actual chronicle are like anywhere from like 12th to 13th generation vampires. As the farther higher up you actually are in generation, the weaker you are. As if you're like a 15th and 16th generation vampire, you're known as a thin blood, where you're really similar to like a human. Some thin bloods can like walk around in the sun. You are kind of like a really amplified person. You still have some vampiric traits, like you still need blood. You have like enhanced physiology, but there's a lot of those drawbacks are missing, and it's like that. So Zappasathura landing in India, like when he awoke, was pretty bad. And the best way I can describe the impact in like power level, just to get an image in your head, is imagine Demon Primarch Angron landing in real life India.
Oh. Oh no.
The only difference is that like World of Darkness has the tools to deal with a big scary vampire like waking up, because the mages got involved. A group known as the Kuei-Jin got involved, which are like, depending on who you ask, either like actually a different thing because they're vampires, but like karmic vampires, or they are vampires only in the sense that like they are it's like, man, look at those Asian vampires, they're definitely a different thing, huh? Because they're Asian vampires. It depends on who you ask and which edition you're asking. They've been victim to a lot of retcons. So a lot of people got involved to stop Zappasathura, but including the mages, the technocracy pointing direct satellite orbital mirrors to point the sun at him. And they pointed like 4 at him, and the direct laser beams of the sun took days to chew through him.
We must use the power of the sun.
It took a while. Like, oh boy.
Like, the random vampire wakes up and everybody just suddenly goes, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Yeah, because like all like the vampires of like a clan, when they're when like that primogenitor wakes up, they're basically like psychically linked through that blood. So like when he awoke, all of his clan was like psychically, all right, let's do this, and started going on a warpath. So it was bad. It was real bad. It's a nasty moment. It's a sick lore moment though.
That sounds awesome.
It's super cool. It's insane.
Put him down. People can't know about vampires. Put them down. Kill them.
Literally.
1984.
It's like the cover up is because thankfully the Kuei-jin were able to summon a typhoon to like cover the sky. So like because that way they could fight just 24/7 because the sun is in the sky. And because of that, the Technocracy quickly put in a cover story that like a really bad storm hit India. And like that's what did it. And then with enough PR, they were like everyone's like, "Oh, I guess it was a storm."
No one at all. Modern mages. Sun Death Laser!
Yeah.
Modern mages, master of Twitter.
There's definitely a lot of Twitter sock puppets employed by wizards.
Oh no.
Oh
no.
You're telling me that Russia's entire technical IT division, where they just spread nothing but lies and propaganda, is just a bunch of wizards just like just typing on
at
computers?
least paid by a wizard. There's definitely one agent for the New World Order that is employing all of them.
That's hilarious.
Like
Quick,
that's usually how they
misinformation.
But yeah, like that's my point. Like all of this that I've gone into, like this is the type of tone I think a lot of Warhammer discussions go into. Where like when you start digging into a lot of 40k topics, where we start discussing like the goofy elements of Warhammer. Like these are the kind of subjects you like deep dive. Like if I started talking about a lot of orc lore to like a new person, these are the same type of stuff we'd all be giggling and goofing about.
Yeah, because it sounds ridiculous. Like,
Exactly.
It's a terrible, terrible setting full of terrible, terrible, horrible things. But it's so terrible, it goes into the realm of being ridiculous because there are fucking sun death rays that they pull out to fight uber powerful vampires, apparently.
Exactly.
You want to tell them about the evil beer company?
Oh yeah, there's that mainly I can even go more in detail about that. That is the company known as Pentex, which is the primary antagonist of Werewolf the Apocalypse. They're a company that works with that spiritual incarnation of like pollution and corruption I talked about. That is the Worm, which the Worm is a spirit that went a little cuckoo crazy because there's like a triangle of spirits that is meant to keep the world in balance. It is not in balance. The three triangles, none of those spirits are doing what they're supposed to be doing at all.
The Worm.
The Worm, it's spelled with a Y, W-Y-R-M.
The Worm.
So
The bird is the worm.
Pentex is up to a lot of stuff. Pentex, the one that is in that specific Alpha Busa video, is they put evilly infused like worm beer into the hands of consumers because they want to get people to beat their wives.
What?
Yeah, because they want the world to become corrupted more by the worm. Because if that happens, then the world becomes even more corrupted and the worm wins, and then therefore they get more power. And the promise was, I think, that the CEO and like the higher ups of that become like immortal, was the promise.
So I guess Prohibition was real bad for him, wasn't it?
It was. Though it also might have happened afterwards.
Prohibition stuff is kind of cringe, you know.
They had other methods. I found some other funny ones. Like, for example, they have a fast food chain that's so awful you just get corrupted by the worm. However, it's important to mention it's not because they put evil spirits in the food. It's because they intentionally make the fast food chain suck. Like, they just make the food bad for you, and they make the environment so awful to be in that you just hate it, and like, but you still go because it's cheap.
So essentially, lore accurate Popeyes.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't believe Al Capone is an agent of the worm.
They also, I found out that there's also an in-universe, like, version of White Wolf, which is the company that publishes all of this, like, World of Darkness. There's a in-universe White Wolf, I think they're called Black Dog, that publishes all of these tabletop games. And that is, like, they have, like, all these, like, parody names of all of these games inside of official Werewolf the Apocalypse canon. So there's, in lore, all of World of Darkness is worm corrupted and will slowly turn you evil.
So wait, hold on. Okay, we need to step back here. So does that mean they took the Satanic Panic D&D bed and made it a lore game mechanic?
I guess so. Yeah.
What?
It's a real funny little like lore mentions they made. They were just
Bro.
like definitely wanted to take a jab at their own thing.
Bro, man, don't you know that playing tabletop games is worshipping the devil? Didn't you know? Didn't you know, dude?
It's actually real. That's funny.
Like that's the fun you get out of this. Like you get a lot of these moments. Like I can go down so many elements of like really funny bits, but there's also on the other hand, like I've mentioned, just great little moments you can find. I actually always have this like one I'll point to, this like very short little like a narrative piece written by who's that written by? This is written by Cassandra Kaw, who is one of the narrative designers for Vampire. And this little write up she did is like hits the tone of Vampire, especially what they've wanted to do with Vampire 5th edition. And this is exactly conversely the type of stories you could tell, which I'll read very quickly. I used to work the night shift at a cyber cafe. There was this really pretty, pale, dark-haired girl who would come in at 1 a.m. every night. She would always play the same MMOs until about 5 a.m. What was weird was how she played. She just ran her little characters all over the map, and sometimes when she found a good outcropping, she'd park her character and pull out a book to read. I asked her once why she did that, and she said, "I like how the sun looks in these games." I still think about that a lot.
Huh.
Yeah.
That tells me a lot of things. For one, that tells you not also a lot about the universe as well as the individual vampire. First off, this person is not running around trying to feed on people. They're staying in a place that's relatively niche, and they're not really going a lot of places. They're going to a certain area, specifically the cyber cafe, because of the fact no one else is really around, and they're also making sure they're back before the sun comes up. But they're also probably trying to emulate something that they did when they were in a vampire, which can tell you that not only are they not necessarily a vampire that wants to feed on people, they're also someone struggling with their lack of humanity. There is so much there that in that one little segment that could jump off of that's really, really cool.
Exactly. That's the reason I like that small narrative piece so much. There's a lot to pack in there, because that's the inherent story that Vampire wants you to tell, is that narrative of you are a person given unlife. You have become a vampire, and the core mechanics of the game is you have what's known as a humanity tracker, which I have my critiques with Vampire 5th edition. I think how they actually go about making a character is the weakest aspect of the game. The core mechanics of it are really, really good. So how it tracks hunger and humanity are really, really good. You have a humanity tracker that starts at either 6 or 10 out of 6 or 7 out of 10. And these all will give you mechanical benefits. And as you do things that are literally inhuman, like killing somebody maliciously for no reason, you can actually get stains and lower your humanity tracker. The thing is, being a vampire and living such a long period of time, you are inevitably going to lose humanity. Most vampires, especially those who have lived hundreds of years, are probably around humanity 5, which is the viewpoint of humans are livestock. There's a quote in Vampire Bloodlines that I really like of a character, a great character. His name is Jack. His viewpoint is humans are livestock, but in the same way that like you would be a little upset if like, you know, a bunch of cows got killed in front of you. Like you don't want to see that. But also you're not going to start crying if like a cow got killed in like the sorrow of that. It's not something you're going to mourn, but you're also not a psychopath. That's the attitude they kind of promote you to go into also for your own preservation, like for your own mental health. And that's the idea, because you don't fully lose everything about yourself. You're still a person in some aspect, a lot of that might start to fade once you get to like year 200. Because, you've just been alive for so long.
And you start to lose touch.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You're just on a different level. Because there's vampires who are like religious. There are vampires who have all sorts of connections. There's also like certain types of banes you can take that you have to deal with all these annoying little features. I think it was Brenly Mulligan who actually did this in a game he did, that I think is such a fun little character thing you can do mechanically. There's a bane you can take for your character, where you actually have the classic vampiric bane of not being able to walk into churches, like images of the cross and stuff. Like, you just can't handle that type of thing. But he was playing a devout Catholic. And that's
fascinating, actually.
Picture playing that. Oh, like, picture being that.
Like him trying to walk you to a church. Ah!
It's like a mime. The power of Christ compels you. Lore accurate and canon.
Yeah. It would suck. Like,
Let me take communion.
There's
the priest pulls out a Glock.
Yeah, get out of here, vampire.
Blicky. Pulls out the blicky.
And, like, of actual, like, vampire society, there's a lot to, ensure that you're not gonna fully snap, because there are, at least one of them is trying to ensure of that, I'll say. That's a better way of putting it. Because there are 3 vampiric sects that I'm not gonna get too in the weeds about, because it'll take a lot longer. Of the 3, one of them you're more likely of playing. There's the main vampiric government, or at least they declare themselves the main vampiric government, the Camarilla.
Do they call themselves the main vampiric government?
They literally declare themselves that.
Oh, no.
I'm not a big fan of the government.
We are the main government. We're the main government, guys. There's no other government.
Yeah, I'm sure you can already get an idea what the other 2 might be. If they're like, we are the only governing body of vampiric society, and then there are 2 others. So, the Camarilla. The Camarilla is a very feudalistic society that has a strong structure of vampiric, like, unlife. They have a lot of terms for everything. They're the ones who created the idea of the masquerade, the idea that we have to keep vampiric society fully under wraps. There is no such thing as vampires to the mortal life, because we're really cool vampires. That's a, very cool thing that we got going on. We're
chill dudes. We're chill fellas.
We're just chill guys. I could punch this mortal's head off. I could take an entire, a magazine from an assault rifle and just shrug it off. That's totally fine. However, the problem is there are so many humans. Just so many.
If they know.
That's the main problem. Because as those years started to turn, vampires started to have to change how they lived. Because if you ever have a fun little time and you want to start delving into stuff, there's a White Wolf wiki, and you should just look up just characters from legends in myth, and 9 times out of 10, it's gonna pull up a vampire, because that's what they did. They just pretended to be gods and larger than life characters. Like, for example, Odin. Odin was a vampire.
That's wait, what?
Yeah, Odin was a gangrel, and he wasn't even from Scandinavia. He was from the Middle East.
he just went there.
He walked to Scandinavia.
What about Thor?
Let me look. Let me just type in Thor.
Is George Washington a vampire?
Who knows?
I see.
Probably the Egyptian gods, the Greek pantheon.
It looks like Thor is in a different game setting. That is in different game. So, I don't see Thor, so Thor is safe. And also, did you say George Washington?
I'm trying to see if I'm just like oddball, like because that has to apply to historical figures too, right?
George Washington looks safe too. That'd be really funny if they made him a wizard.
All right, the idea of just like a random vampire going, man, this life sucks. Walk somewhere else, and then like to like a random like tribal people's like, I'm your god now.
Apparently, George Washington had ties to an organization called Division 6, which is a compact of hunters that work for but are not part of the U.S. government to hunt down supernatural entities, in particular witches. Oh, that's probably going to tie into the Salem witch trials.
That makes a lot of sense.
Are you telling me that the U.S. government are just a bunch of hunters?
Okay, so
Probably.
I will also mention that this is actually Hunter the Vigil, which is a different setting.
Right.
So yeah, that is Chronicles of Darkness.
Right. Separate setting.
Yeah, separate settings because they did kind of end World of Darkness with the Apocalypse timeline and then brought it back, which
they did the Warhammer Fantasy move.
Oh yeah, they did the end times and then brought it back. Which the only difference is World of Darkness end time actually were kind of good. They were just well done, and you could actually play through them with campaign books.
Huh.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's cool.
And they have like multiple endings depending on how your players do it.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, the Vampire Apocalypse of Gehenna, that has like 6 or 7 versions of it, depending on how you want to do it.
Okay, so let's see if Julius Caesar is a vampire.
Oh god, I'm so curious.
Okay, stop trying to look up historical figures. What about the vampire governments?
Oh yeah, true. So the Camarilla is a feudal society, like I've said. It's all centered around a prince in a domain. A domain is literally a city, a town. It's an area where vampires conglomerate, and the prince is the person at the top. It is not that hard to become a prince. It is politics. Because all you have to do is depose or kill whoever's at the top. You know what is hard? Staying prince.
Because then everyone wants your job.
Yeah, basically. You have all this power. Now, the Camarilla is, as an organization, a little tough. You just gotta go through all of this. It's a lot of politics. Because vampires are schemy bastards. Because you have infinite time to do politics. And that's all they care about.
I helped this one guy become prince, and then I stab him in the back, and then I become prince. And then I have to kill all my other friends because they might stab me in the back.
There's a lot of that. But, as many people have definitely thought when hearing the description of the Camarilla, that's a little cringe. And the same thing was thought of the Anarchs. Because the Anarchs came out of the Anarch movement, where in like the 15th century... the Anarch movement came up because there was a large inquisition going on for very complicated reasons. There's a lot going on with the Inquisition in the 15th century, but the main point is elder vampires, when a lot of humans were basically hunting vampires down, elder vampires were trying to reorganize vampiric society. And one of the things they were doing is they were like tossing their younger vampires just in the line of fire as just meat shields. They were just like, well, it looks like this guy's on my trail. Yoink, and they just toss one of their childs, as they would called, and that's what your sire and your child is the person who embraced you and turned you to a vampire. They get the blame. And a bunch of the younger vampires thought this was annoying, because elder respect is a very integral thing with the whole generational system. So the Anarch Revolt happened. The Anarch Revolt is a bunch of younger vampires who decided the Camarilla system is really cringe. And right now, they are actually gained a lot of ground. Largely, the biggest Anarch-centered area is California. And California... for actually, really funnily enough, for reasons that have to do with Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Because that game is canon.
Oh. Oh, right. Okay.
hipster vampires that don't like authority.
Oh no, it is not hipster. It's more like biker, like revolutionary.
Oh, that's cool.
It's more like the Molotov cocktail, like your building.
Less Starbucks, more Molotov cocktail.
Anarchist vampires.
Yeah, it's like that. And they also don't like government systems, and so they don't really have a lot of rules. They uphold the masquerade, but and they'll enforce it, but it's very gang centric. It's kind of like a street gang instead of a
fan of the government.
That's their motto, basically.
Not a big fan of the government.
And so instead of a prince, they have a baron, and it's centered around that. And sometimes they'll even have multiple barons around it, because it really just feels like street gangs. And sometimes these barons will work in cooperation, or they'll be just rivals. They'll just want to fight each other all the time. And lastly, this came out of the same movement, because some people thought the anarchs were being a little too moderate. So,
we are not anarchist enough.
Yes, this is the Sabbat.
Okay.
They are terrorists. They are vampiric extremists who believe in vampire supremacy, and they really like the idea of vampire domination of the world. And they want to kill a lot of people doing it. Instead of no government, Molotov cocktail, it's more let's charge in, car bomb a building, and forcibly turn everybody in the building into vampires.
Love it.
The Sabbat are pretty messed up. Because
man, I wonder who are quite often on the government hit list.
Yes. Yeah. So
I'm not even gonna lie to you. That would be really, really fun to play. If you wanted to play a comically evil vampire character, just go full Sabbat.
There are multiple, even in Vampire 5th Edition, there's Sabbat source books to play Sabbat characters.
That sounds fun.
It's real fun.
Whenever I play role-playing games, I do one of two: an actual good, genuinely interesting, well-thought-out character, and then meme.
Fair.
Me.
The other method,
twirling villain.
The other method is the Sabbat are a really good method to basically force your players to all be in one area and turn into vampires, because Sabbat are really aggressive in the idea of turning people, and a method they actually wage war against the Camarilla is what's known of the act of it's called Shovelhead, basically, because what they do is they charge into an area and make a lot of problems for the Camarilla, because they, well, in most situations, will respect the Masquerade, because it's honestly a bad idea for entire aspect of vampire society and just the population if humans know vampires exist. It also makes
then they all die.
Yeah, they all die. It makes a lot of work if the Camarilla has to make a lot of cleanup work. So what they do, they charge into an area, usually wielding shovels, and start clobbering people on the head with said shovels, and then turn people into vampires. They will then turn you into a vampire, dig a shallow grave, toss you in it, bury you, and then you will wake up in a shallow grave covered in dirt as a vampire.
Dude,
hit and run tactics.
Just footage of that, but it's sped up and it's playing the Benny Hill music.
Just running really fast, just clobbering people, then biting you.
Just
it's Scooby-Doo chase music.
It sounds really
knocks
fun.
you out, turns you into a vampire, buries you in the ground, and then leaves without explaining anything.
I describe this as someone who has both ran a one-shot and has been part of a one-shot that have both done Sabbat Shovelhead as concepts. So
this sounds great.
It works. It's a great how do I come up with a method of having I want to tell the story for new players. They're not really used to vampire. I need to forcibly get them in one location. Shovelhead. Easy.
How do we fill our ranks with more terrorist vampires. Shovel.
Yeah, like, because the main reason is because they believe vampire supremacy, and they believe themselves what's known as the Sword of Cain, because Cain is the first vampire, as biblical Cain killing his brother Abel. Now, this is a fun little fact. You at home, it's a lot easier. If you open up your Bible and go to Genesis, if you just open that up and you read,
just open that book up,
yeah, your King James or whatever, and you'll read the curse God put on Cain for killing his brother. If you squint a little bit, it kind of reads like vampirism, a little bit. Like, it's kind of similar. Because basing this off of my memory of it, God basically cursed Cain to forever walk the earth, unable to till the soil, unable to build anything, like kind of cursing Cain with immortality. So that's like a loose interpretation you could make out of that curse.
He can't farm. Bro can't farm.
No more farming allowed.
If Cain still exists now, I mean, he doesn't really need to farm. He can just go to the grocery store.
I mean, if you take all of current vampire lore into account and all the current books and video game, Cain actually is just a taxi driver in California.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
He just wants to chill, dude.
Cain is actually in Vampire Bloodlines.
Are you telling me that
What?
Cain, the first murderer, is just a chill guy trying to taxi people around and be left alone?
I would not call him a chill guy, but yes, he is.
He's probably just like, yeah, I won't mess up the meter. Here you go.
There is the ending cutscene of well, not the ending cutscene. It's the final like point of Bloodlines where it's like, all right, what's the final like mission you're gonna go do to like get one of like a couple endings? That's like that kind of pivotal like branching moment in the game. There's the fast travel system in that game is a taxi driver, and this taxi driver's been there the whole time. And you're talking to the taxi driver, and he is a little too like creepy. He also has a bit of like very old accent, a little bit Middle Eastern, which, you know, the first vampiric city was in the Middle East, where all the vampires came from. And
Makes sense.
There's one little fun fact. One of the vampiric clans, it's known as the Malkavians. Malkavians are able to tell the future. And the Antediluvians, the one known as Malkav, is a little bit crazy. Malkav, he died, and all of his blood was drank by his children. And when that was drank, this crazy vampire drank by his crazy children, it did something really interesting, and it created a psychic madness network that linked all of his children together. Just crazy people logic that somehow actually worked. So this magical network, Cain does not like the Antediluvians, which is the third generation of vampires, because they killed his children.
Oh.
So, the Antediluvians are batshit afraid of Cain, because the third generation vampires on their stat sheet say yes, written on it. Cain, on his stat sheet, the first vampire, is quadruple yes.
Oh, it doesn't say yes, it says oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no, and then on the back it says yes.
Like,
Oh no, and then oh yeah.
Cain
Oh, yeah.
is probably one of the most terrifying, as there is a point in as a concept where you're like, this can't be statted kind of thing. There's just no point in statting it. So
He just wins.
the Antediluvian in your brain, playing as a Malkavian, because you can play as a Malkavian in Bloodlines. It's a great time, but you shouldn't do it in your first playthrough because you're psychic and can tell the future. The game is literally starts spoiling it in some of your answers to like dialogue, and you will literally future sight plot spoilers before they happen. It's very fun. But the Antediluvian in your head starts screaming and hinting that that's Cain that you're talking to. As Cain in that moment, as the taxi driver, is trying to push you to make a decision because Cain knows that you're pivotal in this moment. As at that game, it's kind of the moment California is going to become a giant anarch-free state.
Okay, I need to go play Bloodlines now.
It's a great game. Just when you get to the sewers, I'm gonna feel bad for you. There's
fine.
If you download the typical fix, the fix mod that makes the game runnable, there's a button you can press that is called just the sewer skip, and it'll add a manhole cover that lets you skip the sewers.
I might do that.
You should. Do not play the sewers. It just sucks. So yeah,
I can't wait for Civ 11 to play it and be like, oh no, sewer level.
I recommend playing the game. It's really good. So like there's just a lot of, it's the best writing and voice acting I've experienced. But yeah, that is like the main sex, and like the Sabbat serve in the idea of Cain because they believe Cain will come back, he will kill the antediluvians, he will create a like vampiric revolution, he will enslave humanity like Netflix Castlevania, like that entire plot. He will literally do that and create a world of vampiric domination, and the Sabbat, being ever faithful, will be that sword of Cain. And that's the world they want to make.
Cain doesn't want that.
There's multiple interpretations of Cain based off the text. I personally run on a in-universe interpretation dubbed the Fisher King, where Cain is an immortal being that is kind of cursed to wander the earth, and wandering the earth is very depressed but incredibly godlike being that is stuck like forever. Like, I can't relate to anybody, I can't speak to anybody, I'm just stuck here perpetually. I want to die, but that is an impossibility based on like how I am. And so like him driving a taxi is like the closest he can get to like doing something. He
that actually is really, really neat. I like that.
That's my favorite interpretation of like a really powerful character. He's like at that state of like, what's the point of me getting involved? You are all like at such a state below me. This means nothing.
I don't care. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that's
like
my
Sigmar.
Yeah, like
taking his hammer and leaving.
Exactly. I always like that interpretation. It's the bits I like in Elder Scrolls lore. If any of you have dug really deep into that, there's
just elf killing, really.
There's a state
of Paladin White Strike.
There's a state of enlightenment a lot of characters reach, where you basically realize that world exists in a dream of a sleeping god, and when you reach this state of enlightenment, you basically can't relate anymore to like people. And once you get to that point, it's hard to exist. And so most godlike beings in that state just leave.
Ignorance is bliss.
They just leave reality and go and like, they just go and create a new one.
Peace.
Modders.
That's what happened to, it was Talos who did that after he created Cyrodiil. And, because Cyrodiil used to be a swamp, and he made it into like a livable, like lush area. And then there was what's his face in Morrowind, the guy who sits there floating in his like big city.
The nerd.
Yeah, the nerd who sits floating in his big city.
The nerd that betrayed you.
Yeah, that guy. Like he also is in that enlightened state. The guy that funny enough in Morrowind, if you try to kill him, the game itself will actually like say, "Nuh-uh, you can't kill him. Please revert your save."
Console commands.
That's funny.
Because he if you talk to him and say, "I want to kill you," he's like, he can see the reality in such a way that he's like, "I'm not going to kill you," because on a meta level, he knows that you, the player, can just load a save enough times that eventually you'll win the fight.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's great. I like those characters a lot. I think it's a great like story thing of just existing on a higher plane like that. But yeah, as I've kind of like talked a bit, I think that I'm not gonna go into every single clan in the game, because I think that they're 14, it's really long.
We'll be here forever.
We'd be there forever, and honestly, that kind of deserves its own episode in and of itself.
Exactly. I have a video on it. There's also it's been mentioned. It's been mentioned too. There's a video by Burger Creek that's also fun, but I have my video. It's a lot shorter than the Burger Creek one.
Watch both. They're good.
They're both very good.
Slap those links in.
I like Burger Krieg's videos on World Darkness are very fun.
I like Burger. I've been watching Burger Krieg since like 2018, so I'm a bit of a fan.
His World of Darkness coverage is very good. He's one of the better channels out there doing it. So I like his cover. The ones I will at least only give like a slight shout out to, because I think there's just a couple fun ones that you can go into without like overshadowing it, is like basically my favorites. Like there's Clan Banu Hakim, which are Middle Eastern assassins, and also known as like the judges, which I like because there's the very surface level where I can point at and be like, Assassin's Creed. I like this.
Justice.
And a little bit. They literally have a bane that is like, if their bane takes hold of them, or it's more of a compulsion actually. Their bane's different. Their compulsion is when their beast takes hold, it's like, that guy committing a crime, I want to drink him. I don't. they want to punish wrongdoing, and their actual bane is like, God, they just want to drink other vampires. And it's really hard to stop drinking another vampire, which is diablerie, vampiric cannibalism. If you drink another vampire dry, you drink their soul. And
you also get really powerful, and it's really, really bad.
You get stronger.
Justice.
They're very fun. I love Banu Hakim. They're very cool. There's also Clan La Sombra, which are so much fun. They're like, refer to themselves as the dark nobility, and they naturally believe in a lot more like vampiric like superiority and embracing their beast. But instead of like embracing it or resisting their beast, they actually believe in the idea of beating their inner beast into submission, which is, the beast is the part of your vampiric body that is like, what if we went a little crazy? What if
I slurped that man like a Capri Sun? What
if I went a little evil? Exactly that part. That is the aspect that's part of it. And La Sombra are usually really evil, and they like to run with the Sabbat a lot. I like them a lot because they also have like shadow magic, and they have like cool shadow powers, like literally shaping shadows into big shadow tendrils to just wrap out and like grab you, and they're terrifying. But they also have the vampiric power, or a bane of, they don't show up in mirrors properly at all.
So they're that kind of vampire.
They are, which is really funny cool. Because they hate the idea of living with mortals, but they require mortals to tell them how their hair looks. And
human servants, you're cringe, you're lowly, I hate you. How does my hair look?
How's my hair? And they're the
it's a little fuzzy.
One of the reasons,
use some conditioner.
Exactly. One of the reasons I bring it up is because there's a story of a canonical character, I forget his name, but he was a Sabbat aligned like leader of like a domain, and he one day got really bored of Sabbat because, you know, they're very terroristy and car bomby, and he's like, this is boring. So he gathered up all of the Sabbat and killed them. And then that day declared his city a Camarilla aligned territory and said he was a prince of the Camarilla because he looked over at the other city and thought their politics looked fun.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
This is so boring. I hate car bombs.
I want to do the backstabbing politics.
I want to be an asshole bitch.
I want to do the crown, but like with blackjack and hookers.
I had a fun concept for a La Sombra like street gangster, like with a small like a very small street gang, like very Italian mob boss guy doing like a street protection racket.
Yeah.
There's some fun you can pull with that. There's also Malkavian, which I've talked about already, with like, you know, their Malkav living in their head. But this is my actual favorite clan in the entire game. I adore Malkavians, as they're all insane in some way, because their main bane is they all have a mental disorder of some aspect, and it's just hit worse because they're also all psychic, like I've mentioned. They're all on the spectrum
in some way,
Because
Oh boy.
it's literally, when you're embraced and turned into a Malkavian, everybody has a predilection to some sort of disorder. Either you had something in your life, or you would have maybe had something, but you just never developed it in your life. But the moment you turn into a Malkavian, it just pops up, and it sucks. It's really bad. But as a Malkavian, you just kind of embrace it. It's pretty normal.
Schizo vampires.
It's pretty common. And when it hits you, oh man. But you also have this madness network, as it's called, which gives you the raw psychic information from a lot of other Malkavians, which they're also crazy. So it's real fun, but it also has that vibe, that one Greek myth of that lady who can tell the future, but no one believes her. Malkavians are great future tellers, but it's also sometimes you have to cut through the babbling, but also sometimes Malkavians are pranksters, and they think lying to you about the future is funny.
So it's just a 40k psyker.
So it's Old Man Jenkins up the street telling you about how tax law is cringe, but then he'll actually tell you something real.
He'll tell you,
but
like,
you can't really believe him.
He'll intersperse, like, that kind of crazy talk with, like, an actual dark foresight of what'll happen. And you're
That's hilarious.
And, like, one of those is true.
Bro,
It's great.
you know that ketchup on untoasted bread is so delicious. It's so good. A plane is going to hit this building in 5 minutes. Anyway,
No.
so you also put, if you mix mustard in it.
Okay, so I have an idea for a character.
Yeah.
A schizophrenic, right?
Yeah.
They get bit by a Malkavian. They don't understand what type of person they are. But their schizophrenia gets worse because they're a Malkavian.
Yeah, that's pretty on par with what happens. Like, because I'll say the portrayal of Malkavians has kind of jumbled all around, because, like, it used to be they were Fae, and then it changed to, like, it then was an older edition of, like, in the 90s mental health, where, like, watch out, anybody with a mental disorder is a dangerous psychopath who might kill you. And it's like, I don't like reading this. This is a little weird.
Ooh.
The early Kuei Jin stuff, from what I've read, because keep in mind, I have a first edition, or I think my first or second edition copy of the Vampire the Masquerade rulebook and the Hunter the Reckoning rulebook. I've read them both, and that plus Hunter the Parenting is my extent of knowledge, but I have heard little tidbits. In one of the ways that the Kuei Jin is described early on, people say is very much so,
Yeah, it's the early bits you're going to see. I would know if you showed me the Malkavian bit, I will know based on if they mentioned Fae. I'll know which edition you have. If they mention Fae, and also for Clan Ravnos, because Clan Ravnos is very inspired by the Romani people, like an actual, minority group of human beings. And one of the things they did is really early on, it's not this anymore, thankfully, but they had a group of people with a bane that was also, they have a bad compulsion to commit crimes, and they need to commit crimes. And it's like, I don't like
you
this.
You must commit crime!
It's like, listen, it's the 90s, and they did it way better. And they go through it, and I like the fact that a lot of times when World of Darkness actually, like, has a lot of these moments where you can just shake your head at, like, I don't like reading this. You can then look at, like, the current books and see that they're not, like, shying away and trying to hide this, or even, like, shame the fact that they wrote this. They usually embrace the fact that the books used to have this and find a way to integrate it, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Current Malkavians are a lot better. They're actually a great portrayal of, like, all over the board. Like, I think there's a great method of playing Malkavians, and I will say Malkavian is also one of the hardest clans to play, because, like, it's a little intimidating to be like, all right, play a character with a mental disorder, play it at your table, and find a way to play it well, in a way that isn't cringe, play it in a horror game that isn't going to be overly funny, and play it in a way that isn't insulting, maybe to a person at your table that might be struggling with something. It can run the gambit. I actually played a Malkavian relatively recently. I had my cool dark vampire. His name, Ted. He had a vampiric name given to him by his sire, Aramastis Frey. He never went by it because he kept forgetting it. And because his mortal name was Ted, so he just kept using it.
I'm Ted.
Ted had a very specific form of schizophrenia where he had a subset of criteria, like a list that he went down. And if things aligned to his list of criteria, then it was sentient and it could speak to him. And objects had souls to him and they could talk and they would give him insight. And essentially, I was role-playing Disco Elysium in Vampire as like objects would just talk and tell me like portents of the future. And one of them was a player who had like one of their core aesthetic was their character wore a hat, like a very cool hat, and I just kept saying that their hat was evil and kept telling me dark future portents, which is where I would lore drop really funny elements of World of Darkness that was happening. I had a bunch of poetic, like really creepy things about like the apocalypse that was upcoming with Gehenna, which is the vampiric end of the world. And I kept telling her like, yeah, your hat's saying this.
Your hat Yankee with no brim is evil.
It was really funny because like she was just like, why is my hat saying this? And then other players were like, he's insane. Stop acting like he's telling the truth. But then, you know, the things Ted would talk about comes true. So then they'd all be like, it's hard to debunk the fact that maybe these objects are sentient.
The hat, it might be evil.
The hat might be evil. And Ted had a combat knife that was like his main weapon, but the knife was I forget the word for it, but it's when you see the sight of blood and it makes you like vomit.
Oh my word.
What?
So he had to like convince the knife to like let him fight.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, he was a fun character, but he embraces everything like very matter-of-factly. Like he expects everybody to take this very like matter-of-factly, and it was very fun to talk to like important characters, and then he'd like say thank you to the door as it like lets him in, and then like talk to the plant a little bit as like he'd well, specifically the pot, because the pot is sentient, not the plant.
Of course.
Yeah, he wouldn't eat certain things because they would classify on his criteria. But like, it was just based on that. It's very fun if you run this. Like, Malkavians can be great because you can run down the idea of like, okay, maybe they're just this form of like mentally ill, but also you can go down like, okay, I'm going to create something very weird and run with it.
Okay, the idea of a vampire that has, like, crippling ADHD to the point of, like, they'll be in a fight, and then all of a sudden there's fucking, like, car keys, like, thrown on the ground, like, ooh.
They're actually, funnily enough, there is one of the character disadvantages, like, bans you can take, is the one where if somebody pours rice or beans on the ground, you have to stop and count it.
What?
Yeah, that's like an old vampire thing. Or like
magic bean power.
Or like, yeah, you ever heard about that old like I forget where it's sourced from.
I've heard about that before. Yeah, like the superstition of if you pour a bunch of salt or rice or beans or whatever on the ground, a vampire or whatever creature would have to count them before they cross that line to attack you.
Yep, and that's the thing you can take in Vampire the Masquerade.
That is hilarious. Well, I guess I know my apartment. I have one of those giant Costco like 25-pound bags of like rice. $15. It's a good value.
Just pour the entire thing.
Pour the entire thing, and I'm gonna be like, okay, so I'm gonna walk past you, and I'm gonna get in my car, and I'm gonna leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vampire with crippling ADHD that like whenever something like just happens, they have to hyper focus on it.
I would definitely, if that was ran with me as like the storyteller, I would give you a disadvantage of you would have like less dice if that situation occurred. You'd have a harder check if whenever that happens.
Like just random thing happens. It's just ooh,
new thing.
ooh.
The last clan I'll mention, because not for a lack of want, there are many other cool ones. Is I think it's a fun one to leave off on. Is Clan Zamiski, which is very Eastern European vampires, but also they're more like Dracula vampires.
Oh.
But like they do actually have Dracula, like Vlad the Impaler. He was part of them, which is a funny element of Dracula. No one likes Dracula in World of Darkness, like, but not for the reasons you think. Not for the reasons you think. They don't like him because he's popular.
Really?
Yeah. The vampires don't like him because he's like the vampire everybody knows, and also Dracula did sail to England and told his entire life story to the author of that book. I forget the guy who wrote it. Bram Stoker. That's it. He did.
He goes to England, tells guy his entire story, and then leaves.
He told that story to Bram Stoker, and he wrote a version of Dracula's story, and so a lot of the vampires just were like, oh, this guy, I hate Dracula.
He's the vampire poser.
Exactly. And Clan Zamiski are like really creepy. They are disturbing. So here's the problem. You have people with a really horrifying set of powers, hobbies, but they're really nice about it. So, Clan Zamiski believes in one core thing: hospitality. That old concept of like hospitality culture. When someone enters your home, you give them a gift. You greet them with a smile. Your home is their home. However, one of their core powers is the idea of flesh changing. They are able to meld flesh like art. And this is a pretty cool power, because whenever you turn into a vampire, you the way you are right now, if you got chomped by a vampire, you got embraced, if that happened, you would be stuck looking the way you are forever. That's just how it is. Unless you went to a Zamiski and asked them to change you. They could do it. They can manipulate your body to look however you might request. They'll do it. The problem is that you have to deal with a Zamiski to do it. And they're so creepy and weird because they love doing it. They really like flesh changing because one of their big hobbies is torture.
Oh.
They think it's really funny.
Yo, this is kind of cool. This is kind of chill, you know? I really like doing this. Can I test it out on you?
The way you can picture it is they'll look at you with a smile and they'll just be like, you know, I just had a crazy idea. What if your leg bone went that way? And then they'll twist their finger and your femur is pointing another direction.
Oh.
You know, it'd be really funny if your arms faced the other direction.
And they're saying this with a polite smile. Like they're offering you a cup of tea.
They just want to share their hobby, man. They just want to share their hobby.
How would you like your pelvis to rotate like 90 degrees that way? What? Ah!
They love creating flesh horrors and even turning their bodies into like horrible monstrosities. And they also find it really cute if you call them like evil or monsters, because the way they see it, they're already like monsters, and you're thinking about it on a human level. You're kind of behind a bit.
You're a little bit behind. There, little buddy.
They're real interesting. I think they're really creepy and terrifying. And there's a Vampire the Masquerade actual play. There's multiple of them run in coordination with the current company that's creating the game with 5th edition. There's a great actor. I think it's the one that's set in... I think it's set in New York. Or it's New York, or there's New York by Night, and it might be LA by Night. It's one of those two. But they're in that one of those games. There is a guy playing as a Miski, and he perfectly nails how terrifying they are because he does this one little tick every time he's talking in character, and he does this perfect slight head tilt smile. And and it's like he's being polite. He's being really polite as he's speaking to you, and it's like, oh, he's nailing it. This is perfect. He's such a good actor. And all those games are canon. So I'd recommend at least. I don't like actual plays. I find them really boring in just the format of a show. I'm just not a fan. But the one I will give props for that is all the actors in those shows, the official actual plays for Vampire the Masquerade. The actors they actually get are really good, and he is one of them. I forget his name, but props to him.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm gonna have to look at that and just see if I can find that, because out of all the clans that you described to me, that's the one. As a general rule for me, in a grimdark setting, the one that I'm initially drawn to is the one that scares me the most.
I think it's a good way of doing it.
I'm not gonna lie. This kind of just makes me want to try and try the tabletop game.
Honestly, yeah, same.
I think the games are great, and that's honestly what I wanted to end on. Is a recommendation for because I think it's a thing that people will ask in general, is the concept of, I want to play this game, so I will tell you this. There are two versions of the game that I would say are the easiest to jump in and play. There is Vampire 5th Edition, which is the current edition of the game, and there's the one that happened right before this, and I think it was published in 2015. It is Vampire 20th Anniversary Edition. So it depends on the exact story you want to tell. If you want a game that I think has probably the strongest core mechanics system, Vampire 5th Edition is great. It is a method of telling a story of personal horror, and you will tell such a gripping tale of your vampire slowly descending into becoming a monster. Some of your vampiric powers, though, in comparison to Vampire 20th, are a little less, it's not as original. They watered down and streamlined a lot of the actual vampire powers. The core rules of it feel way better. Vampire 20th is, I would say, a lot stronger in the idea of if you want to play a vampire game based around the older concept, where it's a lot wider in what you can do. It's a game that can cross over with a lot more of the wider world of darkness. You can tell a lot wider of stories on a lot bigger of a scale too, because current World of Darkness is very street level. You are telling a story with a weaker character, like a higher generation. You're not going to get very strong. You are playing this personal horror. In Vampire 20th, you can make a character that can get a little overpowered. You're telling a story of a character that can do a lot more capability-wise. Your build can be a little bit more interesting. The core mechanics are a little weaker, in my opinion. And that is the difference of those two games. So what you actually enjoy is going to be up to you.
I'm kind of more attracted to 20th because what attracts me to these type of settings is the wackiness mixed with depth, because I like a mixture of like the wackiness and the crossover appeal mixed with the ability to like tell a nice straight level story is that's what really draws itself to me. I mean, I think the game I'd probably want to play the most, even though we haven't talked about it, probably just Hunter, because I don't know, I guess I just enjoy Scooby-Doo and I like that format, so...
The idea of a bunch of just random guys trying to kill vampires.
Yeah, and just not really knowing what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Is kind of scary. Like, I like that almost helplessness feel that you kind of get being that perspective, but also being like a weaker brand new vampire, or even like say like the Wraith. Does Wraith have a 20th anniversary edition?
That's a great question, actually. I presume it should. Though it might not actually, because Wraith wasn't super popular.
Oh wait, no, it's a thing.
Oh, okay, cool. Because Wraith is an interesting game, but I will tell you very honestly, Wraith the Oblivion is a game that if you're going to play it, you should play it with a very specific type of group that you trust, because the method that Wraith works is you have a part of your character sheet that you hand to another player at the table, because in Wraith you have essentially an antagonistic part of your character sheet that's known as, I think, your shadow, and that is the part of your soul that literally wants to go embrace Oblivion and I can't put it any other way, kill yourself. That is the part of your soul that wants to embrace the part of the void. And so as it happens mechanically, there is another player at the table, each of you doing this to each other, that is literally trying to antagonize you and kill your character. And because of this, tables that are not set up for like this and maybe like can get a little competitive or anything like this, it can become a little PvP, it can become a little toxic. So I recommend being ready for that. That is my warning.
Start off with one of the others and then move over to this.
Because
later.
Wraith is very cool, and that is a common warning of Wraith as like rules as written, because it is a game where there are some horror stories of like friends being a little too mean to each other, because like mechanically sometimes just people are more competitive at tabletop.
Monopoly. It's like Monopoly.
Yes. And it's like, it's such a fun concept where you give a part of your character sheet to another person and then you read the rules and it's like, oh, this friend is literally trying to make my character kill himself. This is really weird.
Friendships will be ruined. I play Uno. How can you guess?
It apparently has happened. So,
ooh.
Like, it's just, D&D horror story kind of vibe. So yeah, like, of course. But the core mechanics of it are really interesting. So I would recommend at least seeing if you can track down a core book and reading through it. It's really cool.
Okay. Whoa.
I personally really like Mage 20th. I think it's a really cool game mechanically, because the magic in Mage the Ascension is more like a reality bending, and it's reality shaping. And so the magic system in that game is very like loosey-goosey and kind of like, yes, you can do this effect, and very like, okay, you kind of want to do this, you should have these dots here, and you can learn it pretty well through the Norfolk Wizard game through Alpha Busa, because they have that actual play that they're doing, which is the one actual play I have found that I enjoy. But
okay,
it's very good.
I have a question.
What's up?
So you said that Mage is reality bending, right?
Yes.
Does this mean I can do the I cast testicular torsion meme as a game mechanic?
Yes.
Yes!
You will probably get reality a little mad at you if you do it outright.
I don't care. It's funny.
Men butt crack.
There is... I would have to double check the core book to see which circle of magic it would require to give somebody testicular torsion.
Okay. Anyway, rounding out.
What a perfect way to end it.
Clearly, a wonderful short episode, Sam.
This is not short at all.
What do you mean? This is very short.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh boy. I just looked at my recording.
So, game recommended. I kind of want to play. We should probably set up a game sometime. Anyway.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to this very short, very, very short episode.
Incredibly short.
Go check out 20th edition or 5th edition Vampire game. Cool game.
Go subscribe to Glueboy.
Subscribe to Glue.
Thank you very much for coming on. It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about all this stuff.
Drink some glue in honor of him.
Don't do that.
Yes, drink
for
some
legal
glue right
reasons.
now.
I have to say, do not drink any glue.
You should drink glue right now. Anyway, you can get out.
No.
Get out. Leave.
Get out.
Leave.
Bye.
Leave and drink glue.
Get out. No. Bye.